TRIPURA RAHASYA, The Mystery Beyond Trinity. Chapter 22, The Conclusion. After Sri Dattatreya had finished, Parshurama again asked respectfully, "Lord, what further did that Brahmin ask Hemangada, and how did the latter enlighten him? The account is very interesting, and I desire to hear it in full." Then Sri Datta, the Lord of Mercy, continued the story. Vasuman asked Hemangada as follows, "Prince, I shall ask you a question. Please answer me. I learned about the supreme truth from Ashtaka and later from you. You are a sage. But still, how is it that you go out hunting? How can a sage be engaged in work? Work implies duality. Wisdom is non-duality. The two are thus opposed to each other. Please clear this doubt of mine." Hemangada spoke to the Brahman as follows, "O Brahman, your confusion owing to ignorance has not yet been cleared up. Wisdom is eternal and natural. How can it be contradicted by work? Should work make wisdom ineffective? How can wisdom be useful any more than a dream? The eternal good is possible in that case. All the work is dependent on self-awareness. That is wisdom. Being so, can work destroy wisdom and yet remain in its absence? Wisdom is that consciousness in which this world with all its phenomena and activities is known to be as an image or series of images. The duality essential for work is also a phenomena in that non-dual awareness. There is no doubt that a man realizes the self only after purging himself of all thoughts, and that he is then released from bondage once and for all. Your question has thus no basis and cannot be expected of the wise. The Brahmin continued further, "True, O Prince. I have also concluded that the self is pure, unblemished intelligence. But how can it remain unblemished when will arises in it? Will is modification of the self, giving rise to confusion, similar to that of a snake in a coil of rope. Listen, O Brahman, you do not yet clearly distinguish confusion with clarity. The sky appears blue to all alike, whether they know that space is colorless or not. Even the one who knows speaks of the blue sky, but is not himself confused. The ignorant man is confused, whereas the man who knows is not. The latter's seeming confusion is harmless, like a snake that is dead. His work is like images in a mirror. There lies the difference between a sage and an ignorant man. The former has accurate knowledge and unerring judgment, whereas the latter has a blurred conception and his judgment is warped. Knowing of truth never forsakes a sage, although he is immersed in work. All his activities are like reflections in a mirror, for being self-realized, ignorance can no longer touch him. Wrong knowledge, due to sheer ignorance, can be corrected by true knowledge, but wrong knowledge due to a fault cannot be easily corrected. So long as there is diplopia, the eyesight will be blurred and many images of a single object will be seen. Similarly, so long as there is prarabdha, the residual past karma, unaccounted for, the manifestation of the world will continue for the jnani, though only as a phenomena. This will also vanish as soon as the prarabdha has played itself out, and then pure, unblemished intelligence alone will remain. Therefore, I tell you, there is no blemish attached to a jnani, though he appears active and engaged in worldly duties. Having heard this, the Brahmin continued to ask, O Prince, how can there be any residue of past karma in a jnani? Does not jnani burn away all karma as fire does a heap of camphor? Hemangada replied, Listen, Brahmin, the three kinds of karma, mature, prarabdha, the pending, agami, and in store, sanchita, are common to all, not excluding the jnani. The first of these alone remains for the jnani, and the other two are burnt away. Karma matures by the agency of time, such is the divine law. When mature, it is bound to yield its fruits. The karma of the one who is active after self-realization is rendered ineffective by his wisdom. Karma already mature and now yielding results is called prarabdha. It is like an arrow already shot from a bow, which must run its course until its momentum is lost. Environments are only a result of prarabdha. Though they seem the same for all. Jnanis react to them differently according to their own stages of realization. Pleasure and pain are apparent to the least among these sages, but do not leave any mark on them as they do on The ignorant, pleasure and pain operate on the middle class of sages in the same way. However, they react only indistinctly to their surroundings, as a man in sleep does to a gentle breeze or to an insect creeping over him. Pleasure and pain are again apparent to the highest among the sages, who, however, look upon them as unreal, like a hare growing horns. The ignorant anticipate pleasure and pain before the enjoyment, recapitulate them after enjoyment, and reflect on them. So they leave a strong impression on their minds. Jnanis of the lowest order also enjoy pleasure and pain, like the ignorant. But their remembrance of such experiences is frequently broken up by intervals of realization. Thus, worldly experiences do not leave an impression on their minds. Jnanis of middle class, accustomed to control their minds by long continued austerities, keep their minds in check even while experiencing pleasure and pain, and thus their response to the world is as indistinct as that of a man in sleep to a gentle breeze playing on him or an act creeping over his body. Jnanis of the highest order are left untouched, for they always remain as the burnt skeleton of a cloth. After their realization, just as an actor is not really affected by the passions which he displays on the stage, so also the jnani, always aware of his perfection, is not affected by the seeming pleasures and pains, which he regards as a mere illusion, like the horn of a hare. The ignorant are not aware of the pure self. They see it as always blemished, and hence they believe in the reality of objective knowledge. They are therefore affected by the pleasures and pains of life. As for the lowest order of jnanis, these realize the self off and on, and spells of ignorance overtake them whenever they are overcome by their predispositions. Then they look upon the body as the self and the world as real. They are often able to override the old tendencies, and thus there is an ongoing struggle between wisdom and ignorance, each of them prevailing alternatively. The jnani ranges himself on the side of wisdom and fights against ignorance until falsity is thoroughly blown out and truth prevails. Therefore, jnana is indivisible. Forgetfulness of the self never overtakes a middle-class jnani, and wrong knowledge never possesses him. However, of his own accord, he brings out some predispositions from his own depths in order to maintain his body according to pradapta. This is the conduct of an accomplished jnani. As for the aspirant, there is no forgetfulness of the self so long as he is engaged in practicing samadhi. But the accomplished jnani is always unforgetful of the self, and picks out his own predispositions according to his own choice. The highest jnani makes no difference between samadhi and worldly transactions. He never finds anything apart from the self, and so there is no lapse for him. The middle order jnani is fond of samadhi and voluntarily abides in it. There is accordingly a lapse, however slight, when he is engaged in worldly affairs or even in maintenance of his body. On the other hand, the jnani of the highest order involuntarily and naturally abides in samadhi, and any lapse is impossible for him under any circumstances. The jnani of middle order or of the highest order has no tinge of karma left in him, because he is in perfection and does not perceive anything apart from the self. How can there be anything of karma left when the wildfire of jnana is raging, consuming all in its way? Such karma is only a trick believed to be true by the onlooker. The state of the jnani is said to be identical with that of Shiva. There is not the least difference between them. Therefore, karma cannot besmear a jnani. Vasuman had all his doubts cleared by this discourse of Hemangala. He had a clear understanding of true realization. Vasuman and the prince saluted each other and returned to their respective places. Having heard all this, Parsurama asked further of Sri Datta, "Master, I have heard your holy words regarding realization and wisdom. My doubts are now cleared. I now understand the non-dual state of abstract consciousness pervading all and abiding in the self. Nevertheless, kindly tell me the essence of the whole discourse in a few words so that I may always remember it." Thus requested, Sri Datta again resumed, "That which abides as the self is pure intelligence, transcendental being, comprised of the aggregate of all the egos in perfection. She is self-contained and fills the role of Maya by virtue of her own prowess. Being one without a second, she makes even the impossible happen and thus displays the universe as a series of images in a mirror. I shall now tell you how. She, who is transcendence, awareness, perfection, and total summation of all egos, of her own will, divides herself into two. Imperfection is concomitant with such schism. There is bound to be an insentiment phase which represents the aforesaid exterior or unmanifested void. This sentient phase is Sadasiva Tattva. Now, Sadasiva, also not being perfect, sees the unmanifest void, but yet knows it to be of himself, feeling, I am this also. Later, Sadasiva identifies the insentient phase with his body at the time of starting creation. Then he goes by the name Ishvara. Now this contaminated higher ego, namely Ishvara, divides himself into three aspects: Rudra, Vishnu, and Brahma, who in their turn manifest the cosmos, consisting of many worlds. Brahmas are innumerable, all of whom are engaged in creating worlds. Vishnus are equally taken up in protecting the worlds, and the Rudras in destroying them. This is the way of creation, but all of them are only images in the grand mirror of abstract consciousness. These are only manifest, but are not concrete, since they have never been created. The Supreme Being is always the sum total of all the egos. Just as you feel the body and identify yourself with different senses and organs without deviating from the ego, so does the transcendental pure intelligence similarly identify itself with all, beginning with Sadashiva and ending with the minutest protoplasm, and yet remain single. Again, just as you cannot taste anything without the aid of the tongue, nor apprehend other things without the aid of other sense or organs, so also the Supreme Being, Sadashiva, acts and knows through the agency of Brahma, and even of worms. Just as your conscious self remains pure and unqualified, although it forms the basis of all the activities of limbs, organs, and senses, so also the Supreme Intelligence is unaffected, though holding all the egos within herself. She is not aware of any distinctions in the vastness of the cosmos, nor does she make difference among the egos. In this manner, the cosmos shines in her like images in a mirror. The shining of the cosmos is due to her reflection. In the same way, the individuals in the world, namely you, I, and other seers of all flashes of her consciousness, since all are only phases of Supreme Intelligence, that alone will shine in purity, which is bereft of taints or impediments in the shape of objects. Just as the shining mirror is clear when images no longer appear in it, and the same mirror remains untainted even when the images are reflected in it, so also pure intelligence subsists pure and untainted whether the world is seen or not. This untainted Supreme Intelligence is one without a second and filled with bliss, because it is totally free from the least trace of unhappiness. The sum total of all happiness of all the living beings has taken shape as the Supreme One, because she is obviously desired by all. and she no other than the self, which consists of pure bliss, because the self is the most beloved of every being. For the sake of this self, people discipline their bodies and subdue their desires. All sensual pleasures are mere sparks of bliss inherent in the self. For sensual pleasures are similar to a sense of relief felt on unburdening oneself of a crushing load, or to the peace of sleep. Pure intelligence is indeed bliss, because it is the only one sought for. People do not recognize the bliss inhering as their self because of their ignorance. They always associate pleasure with incidents. Furthermore, just as images in a mirror are associated with objects, ignoring the presence of the reflecting surface, but after consideration are found to be dependent on the mirror and not apart from it, and the mirror is found to be untainted by the reflected images, so also the sages know the self alone to be unique, real, and untainted by its own projections, namely the world. The relation of the cosmos to pure intelligence, the abstract self, is like that of a pot to earth, or of an ornament to gold, or of sculpture to the granite rock. O Parasurama, denial of the existence of the world does not amount to perfection. Denial is absurd, for it implies intelligence, and intelligence displays itself as the universe. The intelligence denying or admitting the world is there, shining over all. Can the world be erased out of existence by mere denial of it? Just as the images appear in a mirror and partake of its nature, so also the cosmos is of and in the self, and real inasmuch as it is the self. This wisdom in perfection is the realization of all as the self. Intelligence appears as objects by its own virtue, as a mirror appears as the images on it. This is the whole essence of the Shastras. There is no bondage, no liberation, no aspirant, no process of attainment. The transcendental conscious principle alone subsists in the three states of being. She remains as the one uniform, absolute being. She is ignorance. She is wisdom. She is bondage. She is liberation. And she is the process. Therefore, this all that need to be known, understood, and realized. There is nothing more. I have told you all in order. The sage Harityana concluded, the man who knows it rightly will never be overtaken by misery, O Narada. Such is the section on wisdom. Recondite with reason, subtlety and experience. Should anyone not gain wisdom after hearing or reading it, but continue to wallow in ignorance, he should be put down as nothing more than a stock or a stone of a man. What hope is there for him? Hearing it, even once, must make a man truly wise. He's sure to become wise. Sin or obstruction to wisdom is destroyed by reading it. Wisdom dawns on hearing it. Writing, appreciating and discussing its contents respectively destroys the sense of duality, purifies the mind, and reveals the abiding truth. She goes by the name of emancipation when clearly and directly realized by investigation as the one undivided self of all. Otherwise, she goes by the name of bondage. She is the one consciousness, threading the three states of being, but untainted and unbroken by them. She is the sound, word, and the significance of Rim. Thus ends the concluding chapter in the most sacred Itihasa, Tripura Rahasya.